Welcome, folks. We're delighted to have you as members of our 700 Club audience, and thank you for being with us. You know, a great caravan is heading toward America. Why? Because the immigrants feel that they can now get into this country, and so they're at the border ready to go. And what are we looking at? Sweeping immigration reform. President Biden is proposing a path to citizenship for millions of undocumented immigrants and dreamers. Could this cause a mass migration, flooding our borders and putting our nation in even greater peril from the pandemic? Well, that's not all the president is proposing for immigration reform. Eric Phillips has that full story.
The president's priority highlighted during his campaign is reuniting immigrant families separated under the Trump administration's zero-tolerance policy. That executive order creates a task force that would identify separated children in the U.S. and find their parents spread across Latin America where they were likely deported. There are some 600 parentless children here, according to the ACLU. Jim Daly with Focus on the Family calls it a step in the right direction.
I think it's good for the U.S. government to try to keep those families together. I was a foster care child. I know what it means to be separated from your family, and that's a scary time for a child.
A second executive order directs Homeland Security to review the Trump Remain in Mexico policy. It restricts those seeking asylum from crossing the border while they wait for their cases to be decided. Monday, the White House asked the Supreme Court to cancel upcoming arguments on the legality of the program, arguing it leaves asylum seekers in potential danger. Sister Norma Pimentel is with Catholic Charities of the Rio Grande Valley.
Yes, it's important to keep our country safe, to know who enters our country, but we also must not lose our humanity in the process of doing that.
The Biden administration is proposing sweeping immigration reform that will provide a path to citizenship for millions of undocumented immigrants and dreamers, those brought to the U.S. illegally as children. The administration is moving carefully, however, so it doesn't encourage any mass migration in these COVID times, flooding borders where some families have been waiting a year or more to enter the country. But as CBN News correspondent Chuck Holton reports from Mexico, many are already on the way.
This migrant center in Juarez has several hundred migrants from Guatemala, Honduras, Brazil, and Cuba. And they're seeing a big increase over the last several weeks since the inauguration as more migrants flood into this city, all hoping to get across into the United States.
We came to the border because we thought they had canceled the MPP. We are all here waiting for Joe Biden to help us. All of us, Cubans, Hondurans, Guatemalans, we've been waiting for this day.
What he is doing is creating a new crisis at the border, and one that will have a direct impact on both the national health crisis, because you cannot test everybody who comes across, and the national unemployment crisis, because all these people are going to need to work.
And I hope we as an American nation can actually secure the borders and do the things to put people in line who want to get here.
Reversing policies won't come easy for the Biden administration. Many were enacted through regulations under the previous administration, and it will likely take months to change them. Eric Phillips, CBN News.
You know, folks, I always felt those DACAs deserved citizenship. They've been here most of their lives, and they're wonderful Americans. There's no reason we couldn't give them citizenship. But to bring in people illegally, people who've come and broken our laws, and their reward for breaking our laws is to be made citizens of this country, to get health care and all the other privileges that we get as Americans, is just insane. No country can exist if it doesn't have any kind of control over immigration. No country you just can't open your border to everybody, because in Latin America, what are there, 300 million people there, and they'd love to come live in America. And you say, well, you know, they're in danger of their lives and so forth. Well, that's one reason to let them in. But just the fact that they think it's going to be a better life here than it is in Honduras or El Salvador, that is not a reason to grant citizenship. And you've got people who've legally come in, and they deserve a place, but they've waited and they've obeyed our laws. These other people have broken our laws, and yet we're going to reward them under the current Biden plan. by being illegal, we will give them the privileges of citizenship. It doesn't make any sense. Well, the question we ask ourselves is, in impeachment, can you impeach somebody who is no longer in office? Would that amount to what's called a bill of attainder? Is that what it would be? Is it legal? Can you impeach somebody who isn't in office anymore? Well, the first clash is in the upcoming impeachment battle. What is it, and what happens next? John Jessup has that.
Thanks, Pat. Former President Trump's defense team denies that the Senate has the right to hold an impeachment trial. In its challenge to the House impeachment manager's case, his attorneys claim the Constitution requires a person to be a current office holder to be impeached and removed. And since Mr. Trump is no longer in office, impeachment, they say, does not apply. They're also refuting charges that the president's statements to the crowd at the January 6th rally led to the Capitol invasion. They say the president's words were about the need to fight for election security in general, not to interfere with counting the electoral votes. And Pat, the Senate trial, as you know, begins next week.
Well, you know, what is the purpose? We're going to hold up America. We've got to get relief to people who are suffering. We've got this COVID crisis. So what are we going to do? We're going to spend time in a fruitless endeavor. Because just like the last one, there is no way the Senate is going to vote 2/3 to impeach President Trump, ex-President Trump, or any other Trump. It's not going to happen. It wasn't going to happen the last time. It won't happen now. But what is the House trying to do? Well, they just don't like Trump, and they want to hate him, and they want to show this is how come we hate him. But that's not reason enough to to stall the Senate. And they say, well, you can walk and chew gum at the same time, and so we can get appointments through while we're still conducting a trial. It isn't going to work that way. But you know, who ever heard of a trial where the defense attorney didn't have a chance to question witnesses, didn't have a chance to bring evidence, where there was no evidence one way or the other, and the defendant had no chance to defend himself? Whoever heard of such a thing? That's not due process, but that's what the House did. They gave the president no opportunity to defend anything. They just rushed through an impeachment, and now they've got it, and it's been delivered to the Senate, and the Senate should say, this is unconstitutional, we're not going to take it. But oh no, they'll have to hold a trial, and it'll take forever. The chief judge won't be doing it because he can only sit in a trial of a president. So the Speaker pro tem of the Senate is going to preside, and he's, I understand, having some illness. So who knows what's going to happen, but we just have got to stop this politics of personal destruction. We can't have it. And if they can impeach President Trump after he's out of office, think of what the Republicans can do to the next Democrat, or they can do to somebody else. It violates the Constitution, and we need to abide by what the Constitution has to say. Well, there's a tragedy about serving a warrant, and 2 brave FBI agents have been dead because of what happened. John has more.
That is right, Pat. The FBI is investigating the shooting that left 2 agents dead and 3 wounded in Sunrise, Florida Tuesday. Special agents Daniel Alphen and Laura Schwarzenberger were fatally shot when a suspect opened fire as they served a search warrant. The case dealing with violent crimes against children. Multiple law enforcement agencies responded, swarming to the South Florida neighborhood when the suspect barricaded himself in his apartment. He later died of a self-inflicted gunshot wound. Well, murder rates saw a historic increase nationwide last year, according to a report from the National Commission of COVID-19 and Criminal Justice. As CBN Charlene Aaron reports, experts analyzed data from American cities, big and small, to investigate the pandemic's impact.
The study looked at crime rates in 34 cities, ranging in size from New York to Norfolk, Virginia. In addition to the significant spike in homicides, researchers found how the pandemic may have contributed to the uptick in violence. While 2020 will be remembered for deaths due to COVID-19, this report also found an increase of 1,268 homicides over the year before. Statistics in urban areas tell an even bigger story. In Milwaukee, the total increased by 85%. Seattle saw a 63% rise, New York City 43%, and in Chicago, a city known for shootings, there were 278 more murders in 2020, an increase of 55%. While other crimes, such as stolen cars and assaults, rose as well, the report takes a close look at the connection between the homicide increase and the pandemic. It points to stress caused by isolation and extreme social restrictions, combined with economic loss and fear of death as possible factors.
We see even the healthiest of individuals with unlimited resources to coping strategies who are struggling.
Dr. Danny Holland of Regent University's School of Psychology leads the Institute for Violence Research. He says those stressors could lead people to violence and even murder.
Definitely could. It could push somebody over the edge. I think somebody who has a propensity for aggression or somebody who has a tendency to be aggressive in other different ways may go that direction.
Still, COVID isn't the only reason behind the increase. Extreme violence racked many cities following the police-related deaths of George Floyd and other African Americans. Criminologists also cite increased gang violence and a surge in gun ownership. Filmmaker Dimas Salaberios recently looked at the impact of surging violence in his film Chicago, America's Hidden War, which is under Oscar consideration. He describes its devastation on communities, particularly children.
We were walking through the streets. We asked for the addresses of the most dangerous blocks in Chicago. And we remember we met this little kid, his name was Quincy, who was sleeping under his bed. He said his house had bullet holes in it. He's seen bullets fly everywhere. We talked to another kid who was around 9 years old. He said, I watched in front of my face my cousin get beat up and shot twice and killed. Then the killer came back and shot him again. He said, I can never forget these things.
Salaberios says the church can make a difference.
This film shows guns being turned into pastors, people being baptized and quitting gangs.
Wow.
The church is the answer, and we can bring the homicides down, but we got to stay out there.
Meanwhile, experts say given these findings, it's crucial we get the pandemic under control. Then law enforcement, the church, and community leaders can work on ways to bring people together to stem violence across America. Charlene Aaron, CBN News.
Thanks, Charlene. Well, some promising news on the coronavirus front. Researchers at Oxford University say the AstraZeneca vaccine is not only 76% effective after one dose, but people who get the shot are also less likely to spread the disease to others. Health experts say reducing transmission is vital as more contagious strains are cropping up around the globe, some of which appear to be resistant to vaccines. Here in the United States, access to vaccines is about to expand. 1 million doses are slated for more than 6,000 pharmacies across the country next week, making it easier for those eligible to receive the shot. And Pat, that's especially true in rural and low-income communities.
It's certainly a welcome thing. My oldest son came by the house the other day, and I said, what are you doing? He said, well, I'm going to have to go across the river to Newport News because I have an appointment to get a vaccination, a shot over there. And they weren't doing it in Virginia Beach or Norfolk. He had to go to an adjoining city across the James River. I don't know where they're showing it. Have you gotten it, by the way?
I haven't. Both my parents have had it, both their shots, but they're in West Virginia, which is leading the nation in the vaccine rollout.
Amazing. What is Jim Justice? He just got it and got them all out there. He's something.
I'm going to actually talk to him today, and we'll have a story on soon,
good.
And find out exactly what they did, because they are leading the nation. And most people, not most, but a lot of people have already had their second shot there.
It's amazing. Well, hopefully this new AstraZeneca thing you can do with one shot, but you've had to take two. Johnson & Johnson was going to bring out one with one shot, but they haven't gotten it out. But this one, if it's that effective, who knows? But anyhow, somebody's going to be able to get it so far. All right.
Hopefully soon. All right.